In the past, waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. used to frustrate me. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, wishing I could fall back asleep. But then I realized something. These quiet hours aren't a curse. They're a gift that most people never get. At first, I thought it was just stress or anxiety keeping me awake. But over time, I started using those early morning hours differently. I began to reflect, plan, and reconnect with myself. And you know what? My life changed. Instead of wasting that time, I discovered it's the perfect moment for clarity, in that silence when the world is still and you're alone with your thoughts. There's something deeply powerful. It's in these moments that you realize how much you've been avoiding. These hours hold answers most people don't want to face, and that's exactly why they're so valuable. So, before you hit the snooze button on your potential, ask yourself what you could do with this time that no one else is tapping into. First, reflect on your thoughts. Waking up at 3 a.m. is one of those things that throws people off. The world is quiet, the darkness feels heavier, and suddenly there's nothing between you and your thoughts. That's where the real work begins. When you're lying there, unable to fall back asleep, your mind is practically screaming for attention. But instead of listening, most people panic. They grab their phone, turn on the TV, or scroll through social media, trying to drown out that inner noise. Let's be honest, it's easier to run away than to deal with what's really bothering you. Here's where I want to get real. Those early morning wake-ups aren't just random. It's the universe, or even your subconscious, trying to tell you something. When everything is quiet and the day's distractions fade away, you're left alone with your thoughts, and for most people, that's terrifying. You can't hide behind a busy schedule or blame external factors. At 3 a.m., it's just you and what's inside you. This is the moment most people break because it's so much easier to distract themselves than to face what's really going on. Let me share a personal experience. I used to hate waking up at 3 a.m. I'd toss and turn, desperately trying to shut my mind off. But the truth is, I wasn't waking up for no reason. There were parts of my life I was avoiding, and in the stillness of the night, there was nowhere to run. I'd replay conversations where I hadn't been honest with myself. Moments where I made excuses or situations I knew deep down were wrong but ignored. The truth is, 3 a.m. amplifies what you're running from during the day. Here's the paradox. Waking up at this time is a sign that something in your life needs your attention. But most people won't admit it. They'll say it's just work stress or a packed schedule. But deep down, they know it's more than that. Maybe you're in a relationship that's draining you, but you won't acknowledge it. Maybe you're stuck in a job that doesn't fulfill you, but you're scared of change. Or perhaps you're avoiding a hard truth about yourself, that you're not living up to your own standards or letting fear run your life. Let me tell you from experience, avoiding those thoughts doesn't work. When I stopped resisting and let myself reflect in those early hours, everything shifted. I started asking myself questions. Why am I awake right now? What's bothering me? What needs to change in my life? And I got honest with myself. See, most people don't wake up at 3 a.m. because everything's fine. They wake up because something's off. It's a moment of clarity trying to break through. But here's the key. That moment is an opportunity, not a burden. At 3 a.m., when you're alone with your thoughts, you have a chance to be brutally honest with yourself. That's where real growth begins. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's in that discomfort where you find answers your busy, distracted mind won't let you see during the day. Instead of filling that silence with mindless distractions, use it for deep reflection. I started doing this regularly, and it was brutal. I uncovered ugly truths about my habits, relationships, and the direction my life was heading. But the more I reflected, the clearer things became. I realized I wasn't waking up because of random thoughts. I was waking up because my life wasn't aligned with my values. I wasn't living authentically and was avoiding tough conversations and decisions I needed to make. Once I started making changes, everything began to shift. Now, when I wake up at 3 a.m., I see it as a gift. I use that quiet time to reassess my choices, goals, and what really matters. I use it to realign and refocus. If something's bothering me, I figure out why. If I'm avoiding something, I face it head on. And honestly, it's one of the most transformative habits I've ever built. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. If you're waking up between 3 and 5 a.m., it's because your life is trying to tell you something, and you're too busy, too distracted, or too scared to listen. Don't let that opportunity slip away. Second, journal your thoughts. When you wake up at 3 a.m., your mind is firing on all cylinders. The thoughts that creep in at that hour are raw, unfiltered, and often the ones you've been suppressing all day. Instead of letting them swirl in your head, grab a journal and start writing them down. It might sound simple, but there's something powerful about turning chaos into clarity. It's important to realize that journaling isn't just about logging the day's events. It's a way to process emotions and thoughts we tend to bury deep. And those 3 a.m. thoughts, they're the truest ones you've been avoiding. Let me give you an example. I'd wake up in the middle of the night feeling overwhelmed. I didn't know what was bothering me. My mind would race. Did I make the right decision? Am I heading in the right direction? Am I wasting my potential? The anxiety would build, and by the time my alarm went off, I'd already run a mental marathon without even getting out of bed. It wasn't until I started journaling that I realized something. My fears were clues to what I was really struggling with. Writing them down, I began to see patterns, recurring fears in areas of my life where I was stuck. Here's the thing, most people don't journal because they're afraid to face what's going on in their heads. They think if they don't write it down, it's not real. But here's the contradictory truth. Whether you acknowledge it or not, the problem is there. And if you don't face it, it'll control you. When you write your thoughts at 3 a.m., you take that control back. You give yourself a chance to see what's really driving you, what's holding you back, and what's keeping you awake. I'm not talking about writing motivational fluff or cliches. I mean raw, unfiltered honesty. When you wake up at 3 a.m. and start writing, don't hold back. Spill it all, fears, frustrations, hopes, regrets. It's in that space that you start to realize how much you've been avoiding in your daily life. And here's what happens. When you see your thoughts laid out in black and white in front of you, you can't run from them anymore. For me personally, journaling at 3 a.m. became one of the most powerful tools for self-discovery. I realized how much of my anxiety stemmed from not taking action in areas I knew I needed to. I'd write the same fears over and over. Why didn't I make that call? Why am I holding on to this relationship that's draining me? Why am I not showing up fully at work? And seeing those thoughts repeatedly, I understood I wasn't moving forward because I wasn't facing the truth. That's the point of journaling. It forces you to confront your own nonsense. When you reread what you've written, you can't lie to yourself anymore. If you keep waking up worrying about the same thing, it's a sign you're not taking action where you need to. Let's be real. Most people aren't ready for that. They'll say they're just stressed or it's not a big deal, but deep down, they know better. Journaling strips away those excuses and shows you the real picture. Think about it. When was the last time you gave yourself space to just think, not about daily tasks, but about what's really going on in your mind? Journaling at 3 a.m. is a way to tap into thoughts you usually push aside because they're inconvenient. It's your chance to be brutally honest with yourself. If you keep waking up stressed, anxious, or uncertain, it's time to ask yourself, why? Journaling helps you do just that. Now, some might think journaling is soft or pointless, but here's the truth. The people who avoid it are the ones who need it most. They're scared of what they'll find when they start writing their thoughts. But trust me, the more you write, the more you start to understand what drives you and what holds you back. When you journal and reach a level of self-awareness most people never achieve because they're too busy avoiding their truth, it gives you clarity. At 3 a.m., when your thoughts feel overwhelming, writing them down gives them structure. It takes the weight off your mind and turns it into something tangible. You'll see solutions you were too afraid to consider and parts of your life causing you stress. And once it's on paper, you can finally do something about it. Make a plan, make a decision, take action, stop running from your mind. So next time you wake up at 3 a.m., don't lie there in frustration. Grab a journal and let your mind flow freely. Be raw and don't censor yourself. You'll be amazed at how much clarity you can gain just by writing it all down. And trust me, those middle-of-the-night thoughts are trying to tell you something. Don't miss the chance to hear them. Third, make a to-do list. You wake up at 3 a.m. and your mind is buzzing. What's next? Instead of spiraling into stress or anxiety, channel that energy into something productive. One of the simplest yet most effective habits you can build in those early morning hours is making a to-do list. I'm not talking about a vague list of tasks you'll barely remember later. I mean a real, detailed list that gives structure to your day. And this matters. Waking up at 3 a.m. is often a sign something's off. When you're lying in the dark thinking about everything you need to do, your brain can't focus. But by writing it all down, you get clarity, organization, and a chance to see what really needs to get done. Let me give you a real example from my life. I used to wake up in the middle of the night panicking about work, personal goals, and unfinished commitments. My brain would jump from one thing to another. Did I send that email? Am I prepared for tomorrow's meeting? What about that personal project I've been putting off? It felt like I was drowning in a sea of loose ends. I'd spend hours in that state, and by the time the sun came up, I was already mentally exhausted. I turned those nighttime wake-ups into something productive by making detailed to-do lists right at 3 a.m. A good to-do list breaks the chaos of your thoughts into actionable steps. But let's dig deeper. A lot of people don't make to-do lists because they're afraid to see how little they're actually getting done. Yeah, I said it. It's easier to keep things vague. Convince yourself you're too busy or overwhelmed or that you'll get to it later. But here's the problem. Later never comes unless you're intentional. Waking up at 3 a.m. is the perfect reminder that your mind is telling you it's time to get your act together. Now, don't just make a random list. Be strategic. Here's how I do it. I split my list into two sections. The first is must-dos. These are the tasks that need to happen that day, no excuses. It's usually a short list of high-priority items that move me forward in my career, personal goals, or well-being. The second section is nice to-dos. These are tasks that would be great to get done, but won't ruin my day if I don't. The beauty of this system is it forces you to prioritize. A lot of people overwhelm themselves with too much, set unrealistic expectations, and then feel like failures when they don't finish everything. That's because they're trying to do it all instead of focusing on what really matters. Waking up at 3 a.m. gives you that rare moment of clarity to see what's truly important and what's just noise. Split your list into tasks and channel your energy into what will make the biggest impact on your day. One more thing. Don't just stop at a task list, go deeper. I started adding a why to each task. Why do I need to do this? What's the purpose behind this item on my list? That's where the real power kicks in because now, instead of mindlessly checking boxes, you're tying your actions to your values and long-term goals. If you wake up at 3 a.m. stressing about a project, write it down and ask yourself, why am I worried about this? Why does it matter to me? That kind of self-reflection turns your to-do list into more than just a productivity tool. It becomes a tool for personal growth. Let me tell you this, if you're not making a to-do list, you're just drifting, reacting to whatever comes your way. When you wake up in the middle of the night, it's your mind trying to signal that you're not in control of your day. Making a to-do list in that moment is your chance to take that control back. But here's the harsh truth. Most people are scared of it. It forces them to admit they've been wasting time, avoiding responsibilities, or not living up to their own potential. And trust me, I've been there. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with a list of things I knew I should have done, but hadn't. I'd spend the next few hours tossing and turning, stressing about the day ahead. But once I started making to-do lists in those early hours, everything changed. I stopped dreading the day because I knew exactly what I needed to do and why. It gave me a sense of purpose and direction I'd been missing when I let my thoughts run wild. So next time you wake up at 3 a.m., grab a pen and paper. Make a to-do list that's real, doable, and tied to your values. Don't just jot down random tasks. Focus on what will actually move you forward. And don't be afraid to admit what you've been avoiding. Trust me, waking up at 3 a.m. isn't a curse. It's a chance to get ahead of everyone else, clear your mind, and take charge of your life. Fourth, embrace the silence. Waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. feels like you're the only person awake in the world. That eerie stillness, the quiet of the night, it's unsettling at first. But let me tell you something most people miss. That silence is a gift. It's one of the few times of day when the world stops demanding something from you. No texts, no calls, no noise. Most people hate being alone with their thoughts. It's uncomfortable. We're conditioned to constantly fill silence with noise. Social media, Netflix, music, endless scrolling. But when you wake up in the deep night and everything's quiet, there's nowhere to run from yourself. And that's exactly why this silence is so powerful. It strips away distractions and forces you to face the one person you can't escape. You. Here's the contradictory truth. Most people avoid the silence because they're afraid of what they'll find. They're scared to confront their insecurities, doubts, and failures. It's easier to drown it all out with the noise of daily life. But when you're awake at 3 a.m. and the world is silent, it's your chance to be honest with yourself, to ask, where am I in life? Is it uncomfortable? Yes, but discomfort is where growth happens. I remember a time when I hated waking up in the middle of the night. I'd feel anxious, restless, and alone. The silence made my problems feel bigger in the stillness of the night. But over time, I started to see the value in it. The silence forced me to reflect in a way I could never do during a busy day. There was no one around to influence my thoughts or pull me away from what I needed to face. It hit me one night as I sat staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of all the things I hadn't done. Instead of trying to run from that silence, I let it surround me and realized it was my space to think. Not just about to-do lists or daily duties, but about who I'm becoming and where I'm headed. In that stillness, I started asking myself tough questions. Am I happy with where I am? Why do I keep avoiding that one thing? What am I afraid of? The silence gave me the mental space to dig deeper than I usually would. And you know what? The answers didn't come from scrolling Instagram or binge watching a show. They came from sitting in the silence and listening to my mind. Most people are so afraid of solitude because it forces them to face their inner demons, the fears, doubts, and failures they usually suppress. But here's the truth. Those demons don't go away just because you avoid them. They're still there, lurking, and the silence at 3 a.m. brings them to the surface. But it's not something to run from, it's something to embrace, because once you face it head on, that's where growth happens. Solitude, especially in the stillness of the night, is a time when you can be brutally honest with yourself. It's a rare moment when there's no one around to judge you, no expectations to meet, no pressure. You can just be. And in that being, you can uncover things about yourself you wouldn't see otherwise. The silence strips away the superficial and forces you to confront reality. Think about it. When was the last time you really sat alone with your thoughts? No distractions, no multitasking. It's probably been a while, right? We live in a world that constantly demands our attention, constantly pulls us away from ourselves. Waking up at 3 a.m. is a reminder that sometimes the universe is telling you to slow down, stop running from your mind, and sit with your thoughts. It's saying embrace the solitude and let it get real. Embracing solitude isn't just mindless wandering, it's about intentional reflection. Use that quiet time to ask yourself the hard questions. What are you avoiding in your life? What's keeping you stuck? Why aren't you taking action on the things you know you need to do? The silence forces you to face the truth you've been dodging, and that's where growth begins. In my life, those moments of solitude at 3 a.m. became some of the most profound times for self-reflection. I realized things in those quiet hours that I'd never have grasped if I just filled that space with distractions. I made decisions in that stillness that changed the course of my life because the silence gave me the clarity to see what really mattered. And here's the truth. Most people will never experience this because they're too afraid to be alone with their thoughts. They'll fill the silence with anything, TV, podcasts, social media, to avoid the discomfort of solitude. But those who are willing to sit in the silence, they'll come out ahead because they'll know themselves on a level most people can't even imagine. So next time you wake up at 3 a.m., don't reach for your phone or try to distract yourself. Sit in the stillness, embrace the silence, let your mind wander, and let your thoughts flow. You might be surprised by what you discover. Fifth, stretch. At 3 a.m., when you're wide awake and the world is still asleep, your body probably feels tense, heavy, or even restless. It's tempting to just lie there and hope sleep takes you again. But what if you used that moment to tune into your body? A simple stretch can change everything, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Most people underestimate how much tension they carry in their bodies. A good stretch at that hour can be the reset you didn't even know you needed. Here's the reality. When you're tossing and turning in bed, your body is begging for release. Stretching isn't just about loosening tight muscles. It's about waking up your whole system. You've been lying still for hours, your muscles have stiffened, your blood flow has slowed, and your body's gotten a little stagnant. Stretching revitalizes you, sending fresh oxygen and blood flow where it's needed most. I used to ignore my body's signals. I'd often wake up at 3 a.m. feeling restless, both mentally and physically, but I'd just lie there staring at the ceiling, hoping sleep would return. But when I started incorporating stretching into my early wake-ups, everything changed. I'd get out of bed, do a few simple stretches, and a lot of people think stretching is just for yogis or athletes. But here's the truth. Your body is screaming for attention, especially if you've spent your day hunched over a computer, glued to your phone, or sitting for hours. Waking up at 3 a.m. is your body's way of saying, hey, you've been ignoring me. Let's fix this. Let me tell you something controversial. Society glorifies mental toughness and productivity, but ignores the body until something goes wrong. We push through discomfort, dismiss tension, and wonder why we feel drained. We take our bodies for granted until they start breaking down. Stretching at 3 a.m., when the world is quiet and calm, is a way to connect with your body and give it the care and attention it deserves. And here's the kicker. When you stretch your body, your mind benefits too because they're deeply connected. When I started getting up early and stretching, it became more than just physical release. It turned into a ritual. I realized stretching wasn't just about loosening muscles. It was about loosening my mind. As I stretched, I could feel the day's tension, stress, and mental clutter start to fade. It was almost meditative. By moving my body, I was stretching my mind too, creating space for clarity and calm. But let's face it, most people don't want to stretch at 3 a.m. because they're afraid to pause and listen to their body. That's because stretching doesn't just loosen you up, it prepares you for the day. Think about it. You've been lying in bed, muscles tight, circulation sluggish. How can you expect to tackle the day's challenges without getting your body in the right state? Stretching is a form of self-respect, a way of saying, I'm going to take care of my body so it can carry me through what's next. When you stretch at 3 a.m., there's a mental shift. You go from feeling restless and anxious, like the day's controlling you, to feeling in control of your body and mind. It's like setting the tone for your day. Instead of letting discomfort dictate your state, you turn it into something productive that benefits you. And honestly, there's something almost magical about stretching in the dark, in the silence while the world sleeps. Just you, your body, and the stillness. No distractions. On the practical side, you don't need to do a full workout at 3 a.m. Start small. Simple stretches like reaching your arms overhead, rolling your shoulders, or touching your toes can work wonders. I start with a full body stretch, reaching my arms as high as I can overhead, feeling my spine lengthen. Then I move to gentle neck rolls, shoulder stretches, and hamstring reaches. It doesn't have to be fancy. The key is to be intentional. Where do you feel tension? Where's the tightness? Stretch those spots. What I've found is that after just a few minutes of stretching, I'm not only physically relaxed, but mentally in a better place. My mind isn't racing anymore, and the act of focusing on my body pulls me out of my head. It's like hitting a reset button. Suddenly I feel present, more connected to myself and ready for whatever's ahead, whether that's going back to sleep or starting the day. And honestly, most of us don't give our bodies enough credit. We spend our days hunched over screens, slouched,